mug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Guns?
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Check for the cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat, you gotta drag them through the streets.
Riot in the streets, Milwaukee style. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday. We are live. This is UCY.TV. We are PrimerTime. My name is Michael, and you cannot hack my emails.
I'm Nicholas, and I'm glad that I actually pay attention to the Department of Defense regulations on mishandling classified information because I don't want to go to jail.
And you know what? I think your children are happy about that because they get to see Dad.
Well,
they don't have to visit Dad through plexiglass 1 hour every 2 weekends.
Yeah, so, the interesting thing about that is, I don't know if our listeners have really, been keeping up with what we have going on in terms of possible espionage cases, but, everybody's pretty much aware of Bradley and or Chelsea Manning, depending upon which person you believe he or she may be. There's also a Navy Petty Officer First Class who is being referred for punishment for taking photos of a sensitive compartment of a submarine, which is the USS Alexandria, that's to be commissioned shortly. He took some classified photos of a compartment that is classified, and he had those photos personally retained within his own house. And his lawyer has invoked the Hillary Clinton defense.
Can you blame him? Can you blame his attorney? I mean, I'm going to give proper recognition to our attorney friend here. But yeah, that's the actual. But that's what I would expect an attorney to do.
Yeah. So, and the interesting thing is, the information that I have states that the photos that he took were, number one, they were, he was not allowed to take photos in the area. It was closed off to photography, but that the information he has contained within the photos is classified at the confidential level. So we're talking well below the level of the 35 or so emails that Hillary Clinton had at a top secret level, and the hundreds more that were at the secret level. Or the
thousands that were maybe not classified as classified or top secret, but had lots of information redacted.
Exactly. And not only that, God knows how many of the 10,000 emails that she destroyed prior to having any additional FBI, DOJ, and or original classification authorities who would have read those to make a determination.
I'm gonna pick a bone with this right here, because she may have deleted 30,000 emails that Donald Trump put out the clarion call to Mr. Putin to harvest, but those emails aren't lost. We live in the information society. This is technical war on all of us. Everything is recorded. So I would not only be surprised, I am shocked, dismayed, and angered that the government that I have that monitors my messages, my Skype usage, my internet postings, whatever I do for metadata, cannot find 30,000 of Hillary's emails.
Oh, certainly.
I find that to be
Certainly. And what's worse throughout this time is, you talk about this individual sailor who may or may not be a member of the United States Navy for very long. We're talking about going after him with a full force and weight of, Department of Defense investigators to prove whether or not he's guilty. We've got a different set of priorities for different folks in other departments of the government, and we have a saying in the military, and it pretty much goes across all services. We say that there are different spanks for different ranks.
That is actually very true, and it should be somehow capable of being transferred to the civilian world, because as we see, different spanks for different ranks applies to the civilian world, as there was recently a picture of Malia Obama smoking a doobie and twerking. Well, she's within the sight of probably 4 or 5 well-armed Secret Service members. Now, I don't think the Secret Service should have got in on this little girl's, and that's what she is. She's a 16-year-old girl on her experimentation with, the devil's lettuce and the ass-shaking music and all that. But I find it to be, let's just say a tad more than disingenuous that her father, one of the original members of the Choom gang, looks on, Choom 2, the electric boogaloo here, as no big deal. And I'll tell you what, your kid gets busted with a joint, and that's a long downward spiral.
That's why they call it the gateway drug.
That's right. Yeah,
you start smoking, and it's twerk city from there on.
I don't necessarily know if it's the smoking that causes the twerk city and thus the ruination, or if it's the they go to jail. And now somebody who smoked a plant has a strike on them that enables them to not be qualified for certain jobs. And I'm not talking about safety and security jobs. I'm talking about a job at a factory.
Certainly. Well, and that's so. Here's the thing that I think is very important to state: Malia Obama is never going to work at a factory, so that is not a concern of hers.
Oh no! She may be overseeing a factory with her Chinese husband at some point in the future, because one of the classes she takes at the Sidwell Friends School is Mandarin. And they are preparing their children for the future, while your children are not learning cursive in schools.
Yep. Well, and then
children are being stuck in Common Core mathematics, and we're not going to read because we have 4 VCRs. Their children are learning Chinese. Yep. Their children are not stuck in front of a tablet, playing. Looking for, what was it? Mysterious, invisible telephone goblins.
And telephone goblins, straight out of North Korea.
I'm telling you, by the way, anybody out there, you should check out North Korea's Twitter page. It's truly funny. It's truly one of the funniest things I've ever read. And it's funny 4 times a day.
Well, I'm going to drop in chat. For anybody who feels to see what's going on in the world of North Korea, the website, which is basically, it's run out of Japan, and it is the propaganda piece for the Democratic People's Paradise, or Socialist Paradise of North Korea. So kcna.co.jp.
Yeah,
if you've got free time on your hands, go see what's up in the in just north of the land of the morning calm.
So, in your time in the land of the morning calm, you had a chance to put your eyeballs on some of the North Korean treasures left behind by some of their ambassadors. Is that correct?
I certainly did. And by ambassadors, we're talking about the ambassadors of goodwill that frequently steal across the border and leave little trinkets behind as they are dispatched by the South Korean military.
And some of these trinkets would be Kalashnikov.
Yeah, Kalashnikov, SKSs. The PPSH was actually one of my more favorite rifles that has been left behind, but have been assorted in sundry items such as the 2-man submarine or submersible. This is you'll find a lot of assortment of different types of knives, some pistols, usually outfitted with silencers. This is all part of basically the North Korean General Reconnaissance Bureau has the direction over all of the special operations forces in North Korea. And part of them doing their culminating event and training is to get across the border and do some kind of special reconnaissance and head back undetected.
So, can you confirm whether or not that North Korean submarines have power windows, or do they have the old-fashioned crank window?
I will tell you that as far as the two-man submersible, they do have a windscreen. When it comes to the submarine crews, they have a very short life expectancy because what happened in 1997 when the submarine ran aground on the east coast of Korea, the sub crew was suicided by the special reconnaissance team that they were carrying and were laid out and shot in the back of the head as the special forces team moved inland to try and escape and evade.
Well, that's what you get for failing the dear leader.
Yeah, and back then it was Kim Jong-il, and you didn't mess with that guy.
No, and there's a lot that people don't really know about Kim Jong-il, and actually a lot about the Kim family, just due to Korea's or North Korea's secretive nature, their non-compliance with our beautiful, bountiful media, and the doctrine that they subscribe to, which is not communism. It's a doctrine called Juche, and that's spelled J-U, or how do you can pronounce it?
Yeah, it's Juche, and what that basically translates to is self-reliance. It's also the calendar, which dates to the birth of Kim Jong-il's father, Kim Il-sung, and that's how they track the annual calendar.
So it's like 1 year 153 or something like that in North Korea right now.
Yeah, something. I think it's like 134.
134, something like that. Yeah. And as far as self-reliance, North Korea does make their own methamphetamine.
As a matter of fact, they make the best methamphetamine, and it is rumored to have ingredients derived from the unicorn.
The unicorn and the baby seal harvest.
Well, I tell you what, that's why they call it Best Korea, because Best Korea has meth and unicorns. And you can't get that in South Korea.
Who needs Wi-Fi at that point, really?
Yeah. You don't need your LTE, 5G internet when you've got unicorns and meth. That just no longer matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's take up another kind of prescient world topic that has something to do with our subject matter. There's military operations going on in Syria, and today it was revealed that the Russians are actually using Iranian bases to strike in Syria, and the Chinese are moving into Syria to assist Assad.
Yeah, so when you take a look at it, and it comes out in a major U.S. media outlet, you can count on that have already been in effect for about a month.
I would dare say that's a very, very accurate statement.
Yes.
So how does Russia basing planes at Iranian bases, and the Russians and the Iranians have a tight relationship. The Russians have stated their willingness to build the Iranian nuclear reactors, and that they have several deals involved. The Chinese are involved currently in building the world's largest subway system, which is in Tehran. I think it's going to be 10 times the size of the Paris subway system, which is, I think, second largest subway system in the world. And they're strong. They're strong.
Yeah.
How will this fit in with the famous Nostradamus quatrain of when the dollar and the shekel make the mushroom in the house of the camel, the bear and the dragon will stir?
Ooh, that sounds deep.
Does that sound deep? So how does the Russians basing Air Force and quite possibly ground forces and troops and whatever else that they think they need, how does that fit in with the war doctrine that's being kind of trumpeted by both candidates now?
So, the interesting thing is that, you can look at this a couple of different ways. You could look at this as a departure from the two-front war strategy that we have previously had up until recent years, where the U.S. was designing its military to be able to fight a two-theater war simultaneously. When you look at what we have now, we can't even have a successful low-intensity conflict in one theater, let alone trying to do a full-scale war in two separate theaters. So there's some concern right there. And, whether this is availability of manpower, I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's a case of not having the technology. I think we currently lack the political will. The will of the fighting man and fighting woman is there. The experience level is there. The equipment and the supply is there. I think we lack the political will.
I would almost dare say that the political will is secondary to the production, to the banking and the finance, because there's no profit in going in and winning a war, but there's a hell of a lot of profit in continually fighting a war that has no end.
Well, and that's the only problem.
All that
is
that finance.
Yeah,
it all has to be financed. And guess what? You're not going to pay for it. Your kids are going to pay for it. Your grandkids are going to pay for it.
Well, the big thing is that you have a generation right now, which is we call them the dreamers, right? These are the deferred action for childhood arrivals. This is the DACA crowd. This is the folks that Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton are embracing right now to be the next generation of Democrat voters. These are the Taco Bell guys, according to the fine Irish lady Wasserman Schultz. So you have a subcategory of citizens that are basically going to be looked up to in terms of carrying the party standard forward into the next generation. And you're gonna start to see the calls for them to get citizenship. It was funny because I saw a article that had Joe Biden talking at a DACA event, and he said, we've had DACA in place for a while. Now it's time for us to start working on a path towards citizenship. So just like with everything else, especially when it comes to guns and gun legislation, they realize they can't effect massive change all at once. But little by little, people will swallow it until it's exactly what they have. It may take time, but that's what the end result will be.
And the analogy used is you cannot boil a frog. You don't throw a frog into a pot of boiling water. You put the frog in the water and slowly turn the heat up. And I'd say it's cranked up to about 6 or 7 right now. And we're looking at a clear shot to 10 on the dial.
Well, the big thing is that when it comes down to it, and you've got the average male enlistee who that demographic is going to shift from a white 21-year-old to very very soon it will either be a Hispanic 18-year-old and or a lesbian 32-year-old woman, depending upon whichever way then the dynamic turns. You're going to see a greater reluctance for people to go into other places on a type of expeditionary mission for whatever military gain there is.
I've heard the Barry Sadler's Ballad of the Green Beret. In
oh my goodness!
I do not think they make that song in lesbian.
Yeah, well, and the reason I bring it up is because the Secretary of the Navy has directed, his name is the Honorable Ray Mabus, has directed that the Marine Corps integrate women into the infantry officers basic course. And this week, the only female Marine who had attempted to pass the course has dropped out for failing to maintain standards, and she has failed her second run. So a study was performed well in advance of this directive coming down from the Secretary of Defense to open all branches of the armed forces to, females for any job specialty, and then later with the transgender policy reversal. One of the key problems that was identified by the Marine Corps study was that from the pool of women that they had, there were 0 women who were qualified to pass the courses without significant changes being made. And Ray Mabus has said, we are never going to lower our standards. But yet, with that, they have 0 females who are qualified to finish the infantry officer basic course.
Well, I mean, it's not really rude or misogynistic or anything to say that men generally are stronger and have more stamina than women.
Hey, that's sexist. You can't.
Why are you quoting biological facts, you bigot?
You hater. Now, I tell
yeah.
You,
so,
I tell you what, the funny thing is, like I said, I'm fairly close to retiring after 21 years of service, and by the time it's all done, it'll be out over 22. That is a long career in the military.
Oh, so you're getting ready to fill in the FTP form, so to speak.
Yeah. So I can say without a doubt, in my time, I have seen very few, if any. And I'm saying very few to be generous in the event that, maybe at some point I may have seen somebody who could have done something. I haven't seen any female who could hold up to a male standard, not only on a physical fitness test, but on the basic requirements of the job. I've not seen that. And whether that means that, an individual woman that went through U.S. Army Ranger training 3 times as compared to the males who only get 2 times is capable of doing the same things, I'm not going to speak to that. But I'm going to speak to, in my 21-year history, having been in infantry brigade combat teams more often than not, I haven't seen that.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a simple biological fact.
Well, we did receive an email from the Sergeant Major of the Army. His name is Dan Daly. He's the senior enlisted advisor to the Army Chief of Staff on all matters concerning soldiers. Did send out an Army All email recently that said that he wants women to step up and shoulder their share of the combat arms load, meaning that he wants females to stand up and become non-commissioned officers and leaders in the combat arms field of armor, field artillery, infantry, engineers. And
honestly, just from a non-military person standpoint, that is relatively indicative of that Army doublespeak, because shouldering the load would mean to me that you would take an equal part in there, and if you're putting them into supervisory positions, that means more delegation than actually shouldering of load.
Exactly, and I can tell you for all intents and purposes, when you have an individual who branches out of the combat arms field, there's typically a sense of, acceptance in terms of this individual has done the hard jobs, has had his feet on the ground, knows the terrain, knows how to use certain things, and knows what to expect. Whereas to bring somebody into a branch that was formerly not in that field and come in as a leader, there's going to be some animosity among your peers, and then not only that, you're going to have the double duty of trying to convince your subordinates that you are just as capable as the next guy when you didn't come up through the same system that they did.
If anybody has any problem with what we're saying tonight, you can direct all questions and complaints to Don Lemon at CNN.com.
There you go. He'll handle only the homosexual problems.
So speaking of homosexual problems and Black Lives Matter and Don Lemon, let's take a look at what's going on in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
and this directly, once again, relates to us because this falls squarely in the realm of home defense.
So I haven't seen the sheriff of Milwaukee County. Then again, I'm not in the habit of watching network news. But David Clark, I believe, is his name, and haven't really seen him speaking about the riots that are going on.
I believe I've seen a couple interviews with him, and let's just give a quick rundown as to what precipitated all this. There was some incident in Milwaukee County somewhere, and a man with 257 previous convictions and arrests and legal entries had run from the police in a stolen car, had crashed the car and had run from the police on foot. Armed with a stolen handgun, turned and pointed the handgun at the officer, who happened to be black. The perpetrator was black as well. The officer shot this man and killed him dead. This has caused a considerable amount of outrage. I'd like to actually ask somebody from Black Lives Matter, why do you celebrate these scumbags and not somebody else, somebody who's far more deserving of your attention? That's just a question out there. So after that, there's been some protests. There has been 2 nights of considerable violence and damage done. This violence is racially motivated. There's many tweets going out. If you are a Twitter user, you can look up the hashtag Milwaukee Loot Crew, and you will see many videos that will disgust you and maybe make you a tad fearful as a homeowner. Once again, we've seen the media putting spin on it. The sister of the perpetrator who was shot by the officer recently went on TV and gave her screed, and it was kindly edited by CNN to show that she was calling for no violence. And the actual unedited video of that shows that she's calling for no violence in her area. But please take your rage to the suburbs and go burn the white people.
Well, this is very reminiscent of the mayor of Baltimore stating that those who wish to destroy and break should be given the opportunity and the space with which to do that.
Yes, please offer up your children as a sacrifice to the god of rage. So this has become a problem, and something I will find fairly interesting in comparison to several other riots that have occurred over this same subject matter in the past year and a half, 2 years. They actually called out the National Guard for this one this time, and I find it fairly interesting that in the damage done, there was the usual Taco Bell gas station weave shop that was destroyed and looted and ransacked, and a couple of gas stations here and there, and I think an O'Reilly or an AutoZone, an auto parts store that got trashed. But they actually set fire to a bank this time. Now, I don't know if this was accidental or it was purposeful or what their idea behind burning the bank, other than this is the place where the money's at. I don't know, but then that's the first time that the National Guard's been called out for one of these events. And I find it to be really funny that's because they hit a bank.
Yeah, so and the funny thing is, because of all the other riots that have taken place, whether it was Baltimore, whether it was Ferguson, 0 banks had been torched.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you take to another step, we could look a little bit further south, and we look at Mexico, and on the west coast of Mexico, there's the state of Jalisco, and they have a cartel-style group. They're called the Nuevo Generation Jalisco Cartel. And these are, I would say, young upstarts tired of the old man and the man and the old man running the dope game, or whatever it is that they do. Well, they recently took a town in Jalisco hostage, and they went wild, but they did not harm any citizens. They did not harm any private businesses. What they did was they blocked the highway, and they torched the Pemex stations. Pemex is the state-owned gas monopoly in Mexico, and they torched banks. And as we all know, the crisis has been going on for a long time in Mexico, and it's tit for tat, and there's some killings here and some killings there. They took the fight another step, and they hit the government, and they hit the banks, and the Mexican military went in there and killed like 90% of them guys like within a week. So that's who's running things, folks.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. The interesting thing is that we've got the riots. We've got the recent attacks on police officers. Justified or not. We've got the state of Massachusetts Attorney General doing a blanket ban on semi-automatic rifles, which quite a few of them are manufactured in her state. Did you happen to see that the rankings for of all 50 states, which have come out for which state is the most free and which is not, and surprisingly, or not at
Not.
all, the most free state, actually the least free state, number 50, is New York.
Shout out to New York, and thank you, Jules, for living in the People's Republic of North New York.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that that all the states that you would almost expect to be, along the lines of New York, right off the bat, you can rattle them off. California, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, all of those bottom 5. So what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and I'll drop that in chat, so that way whenever you get a chance and you want to take a look, you can select from the user-friendly menu and see where you rank. And Michael, surprisingly, Texas ranks on the lower half.
I'm not very surprised by that. Texas has a reputation of being a gunslinger's paradise. I personally think the gun laws in Texas are sort of restrictive, coming from a state like Arizona that's pretty much open and free. Texas has many laws regarding the concealed carry of weapons. Police aren't very happy with people who do carry weapons. I can see where Texas is not ranked at the very top.
Well, what may surprise you is that New Hampshire is ranked number 1.
I'm not surprised by that because New Hampshire's motto is "Live free or die," I believe.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, they are surrounded by the bastion of, Massachusetts, Maine, New York, and Vermont. And Vermont kind of tends to get the Bernie Sanders, "Hey, I live in a rural state." They're number 40 overall. So, and that's actually down 2%. But just for our listeners, I'll give you the rundown of the top 5. Starting out number 1, you've got New Hampshire. Number 2, you've got Alaska. Number 3, Oklahoma. Number 4 is Indiana, and number 5, South Dakota.
I'll tell you what; those people in Indiana need some guns. They're right on the
they're
on the
close
edge
to
of
Chicago. They're close to Chicago.
And which let's go into another firearms related story. Chicago once again outdoes itself. There were 100 shootings in the last week in Chicago.
Yeah, and talk about the police superintendent, a man by the name of Eddie Johnson, was unable to say that gang violence was attributable to any of the shootings.
No. This is all guns from Wisconsin or guns from Minnesota that are coming in and really causing all the issue. There's truckloads of Glocks that are just making their way down the highway and probably causing all kinds of damage on the way.
Yeah. A direct quote is, "We've identified that small segment of individuals behind this violence, but their days are numbered," he promises, "and there'll be more prosecutions." He fails to say
I would almost guess that their days are numbered, and they're numbered in the tens of thousands.
Yeah, he fails to say that they are gang members affiliated with the Black Disciples, the Insane Popes, La Raza, Maniac Latin Disciples, Simon City Royals, Spanish Gangster Disciples, and Spanish Lords. Those aren't baseball teams in the Negro Leagues, folks.
No, those are guys that play a little different brand of hardball. And as a citizen who is responsible for your own protection, because the cops will not protect you. The cops don't protect anybody but themselves and the money men. It's incumbent upon you to protect yourself. And in a situation like this, where they are actively calling for these looters who are, honestly, there ain't nothing left in their area to destroy. I mean, the sister of this man was actually saying, "Don't burn the weave shop here. We need these weaves. Burn the weave shop in the suburbs."
Because there's a high market for those.
This is a problem, and they're trying to turn this into a further race war. To me, it's not necessarily a racial issue; it's a crime issue. And as a homeowner, if this was to happen in my area, I'm fairly confident that my area would respond. Not necessarily the police, but the citizens of my area would respond. It's not the same in more heavily populated areas, but I would hope to God at some point if there's a crowd of looters outside your house, bust out your shotgun and take out the first one you see.
Yeah, are you the president of the Philippines?
I should run for it. I should run for it. I'll tell you what. Duarte Harry has. He's kind of got a little bit of admiration for me. The man. I think he talks a lot of shit, but he's backing up what he's saying, and it looks to be somewhat successful as to what he's doing. In the Philippines, we should probably give a little bit of history to this. The Philippines just elected a new president, Rodrigo Duarte, and he came in on a clean up the Philippines platform, and he basically said, "Go ahead and kill drug dealers. If you kill a drug dealer, I'll let you go. I'll pardon you."
Yeah, and, certainly did.
And there's been quite a few deaths. There's been, I believe at the last count, there's been over 700 deaths in the Philippines, directly attributable to civilians and military and police taking out, going on their purge. One of the interesting things from this is now that they've kind of eliminated the lower level dealers and users, they're finding out where this is coming from, and this is going to affect their relationship with China.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is that China is not above flooding a market with low-grade drugs. So it's not surprising.
Weapon of war. It's a war tactic. We do the same thing. We flood Russia with heroin. We've flooded Russia with heroin since sometime in the early 70s. It's a legitimate tactic. We've done it. They do it to us now.
Well, and that's one of the things that I think we've spoken about before is that when China goes to war, which isn't very often, but when they do, there is nothing that is off the table. It's total war, and it is a war of submission. You will submit or you will die.
I'll tell you what, that TED Talk, I've seen a TED Talk with a Chinese general. It was kind of an eye-opener for me because every time I've seen a Chinese official before, they speak with a very strong accent. Their English is, well, it could be passable English. It's not necessarily radio-friendly English or even video-friendly English. You have to kind of pay attention. Well, I saw this TED Talk with this Chinese general who was educated in the West, and he said, yeah, total war. Total war. Nothing is off the table. And I don't believe he was referring to the use of nuclear weapons. I believe he meant nothing is off the table. If they have to get your kid hooked on methamphetamines to win, that's what they'll do.
Yeah. Or if they have to unleash a whole nother generation of imaginary telephone goblins, they will do that.
Even bigger and better telephone goblins with shiny parts.
Yeah. So that's
light goblin.
That's one of the things that I think when it comes to the readiness of our country's fighting forces, it's not always that the Army has to get a new rifle or has to get a new service pistol. We got to get some less fat kids. That's been the chief complaint of the Chief of Staff of the Army as well as the Commanding General of Recruiting Command. We are the product right now in these generations that are coming up. They're the product of our own success, and by that what I mean is,
if your 9-year-old boy can use a bra, you have failed as a parent.
Yeah, well, you've got kids who, number one, don't know how to survive outside of a climate controlled environment that has a ample amount of what was the term last year? Safe space. So, we're raising some generations of sissies out there. And by sissies, I'm not meaning to offend our transgendered men.
No, we're actually raising pussies. Straight up, honest to God pussies. Guys that don't have the balls to stand up for themselves.
Yeah. So, the interesting thing is that when you take a look at it across the nation, we are a predominantly Christian / you could say Protestant nation. The
shout out for all the heathens in the audience.
The minorities being the agnostics, the atheists, and the other assorted minority religious groups. Pretty much across the military, you're talking probably close to 80% being Protestant or Catholic that are serving. You got a very, very, very small population of Muslims, Jews, Hare Krishnas, whomever.
I'll tell you what. Taking a look at some of the literature regarding D-Day and June 6, 1945,
44.
and
44.
1944, and you take a look at there are I think it was 10,053 crosses that are there. There are 149 Jewish stars.
Yeah. Yeah, it says something, but then again,
and the William first,
and that would be at the Normandy American Cemetery, which I have personally been to, as well as to the American Cemetery in the Meuse, Argonne. It's striking for folks who may have never had the honor of visiting such a cemetery, but when you go out there in front of you and you see the rows that are dressed, pristinely manicured, and having those headstones aligned, and you can see just Christian cross after Christian cross, interspersed, with a very small minority of other faiths. You tend to get an idea of the level of sacrifice and who is put in for this country, and I can tell you, you hear people refer to the Judeo-Christian ethic. And I will tell you, when you look at our cemeteries, it's the Christian work ethic that goes into keeping.
Yeah, there's very, very little Judeo about it, except for the guy who sells you the headstone.
Yeah, and not only that, you have in my state, you have a locality that is honoring the parents of the fallen Army Captain Khan. This guy has just.
We can go into those numbers. How many Muslim soldiers have died in service in the United States Army in this current conflict right now? The number is 14. How many American soldiers have been killed by American Muslim soldiers? That's a very good question. That number is 29.
Yeah. So when you take a look at it on the surface, it's not a hard equation. Do I trust soldiers? For the most part, yes. Am I wary of certain soldiers? Absolutely. Would I not share an enclosed space with a certain soldier of a certain faith? Absolutely. And that's not being xenophobic. That's not being anything else other than making sure that I follow the law of self-preservation. I'm not stupid. I've been doing this for 21 years. I've seen the individuals who go out and conduct, sneak attacks and or become self-radicalized and or become radicalized through sermons or whatnot. And yeah, the predominant numbers show that it isn't the Southern Baptists who out and radicalized somebody to do some harm. That's not.
Yeah, they're not jihadis. I'm sorry.
No, they're not jihadis. That is for sure. So
yeah,
that's one of the things that
that's something that's really kind of hitting home to me watching a lot of these events going on TV with the unrest in our nation, the great big discussion as to whether or not the firearm is evil or not, and how this nation has to be inclusive and tolerant of everything in the world. And I don't really agree with that. I live in let's call it, what it is. It's a fairly rural area. It's rural Texas, rural coastal Texas. And I'm 25 miles away from the nearest Walmart. What happened in Milwaukee would not happen in my town. My town is the kind of town that still puts up the American flags out there because that's somebody's kid. That's somebody's kid from here that went to go and fight in some other country for the banker. That's becoming more and more obvious every day. And the flags go up. People here still believe in the ideal of this nation. And I'm not seeing that anywhere else. And I kind of have a feeling that's going to lead to some major strife and possibly balkanization.
Yeah. The funny thing is that, you say that can't happen in your area. But we have the militarization of the police. We're talking police that have every single asset that the standing army has and are using it against lawful citizens.
Well, and we can see that at certain items that have been developed for the military in combat situations and in crowd control situations are being deployed on our streets today, and not necessarily by police. Something that came up in the news in the last couple of days was that cell phone jammers that were developed for the military, which would deny cell phone use in a certain area, have been deployed at Hillary Clinton rallies.
Yeah, go figure.
They don't want anybody calling in and saying, "Hey, there's only 42 people here, and 8 of those guys are Secret Service." Well, Trump's got a rally of 25,000 and still has a crowd of people out the door. And I'm not a Trump fan. I think Trump's a scumbag. Honestly, he's a tool of the banks. You do not become a New York, New Jersey casino and real estate magnate without knowing what gift to buy for a bar mitzvah.
And or if you can say it in Russian.
Right. And yes, please make sure that you have the payment for the Russian mob who will control your trash delivery ready. And they
I would hate for something to happen to such a nice casino, Mr. Trump.
Very much so. Very much so. That's scary. You can do that accent that well.
It takes some training. My Chinese one is coming along very well.
That is really kind of the scariest thing. Is like the only Chinese words I know are actually Vietnamese, and they're chu hoi, which is not really the good ones to know.
No, that one's the surrender one.
Yeah, Le Chua is Jesus Christ as well. I think that's what that was. And Tien Sen is doctor. So that's all my Vietnamese for.
I know how to say hello, and I know how to say goodbye, and that's about all I need to know.
Yeah, I'm finding that. Language is going to become an important thing in the future, while foreign language are going to become an important thing in the future. While it seems that the English language is being degraded and destroyed here while we speak.
Well, Michael, I went ahead and we're on 45 minutes into the show, and I figured let's talk about some guns.
Let's do that.
So I dropped a link into chat about the Special Interest Arms 9mm bolt-action rifle, and this is something that you and I have been going back and forth on for the last couple of days. Being that this is an interesting concept because this is your pistol caliber carbine, in the sense that this is a pistol round that's being fired from a short-barreled rifle. And what's even more interesting is that it's not in a semi-automatic platform. This is in the bolt-action platform.
And personally, I think this is a solid, wonderful idea. Now, unfortunately, this company, Special Interest Arms, what they do is they retrofit another rifle. This would be the Rock Island Arsenal TCM-22 rifle that they take and they rechamber for a 9mm. The 22 TCM and 9mm are very similar. 22 TCM, I believe, is a 5.56 projectile in a neck-down 9mm case, and it's got quite an increase in speed and velocity. And then with the lighter weight bullet, because that would be a 55 grain bullet versus like the standard 115, 124, 147, or 135, whatever you got for your 9mm. So this bullet moves a lot faster, which gives you a little bit more penetration, and comes in a fairly short Mauser style action. And I really, really like the concept of a pistol caliber bolt action rifle. I think it would. Well, I honestly could see many uses for it from a truck gun. I could even see it being used as home defense. I can see it being used as a light hunting weapon. I can see it being used as a trainer.
So, the interesting thing that I saw about this was that this is going to come as either a 16-inch carbine or a 12-inch barrel, which is effectively a short-barreled rifle. But because it has the permanently attached cage, this is going to go outside the National Firearms Act, and you're going to be able to have this basically a permanently suppressed rifle.
This cage on the 12-inch barrel is fairly interesting. This kind of gets into an area where SIG has tread before, and they've taken it in the shorts with the ATF. SIG came out with a baffle system that would screw onto the end of the muzzle, very similar to any other kind of muzzle brake. And this SIG baffle actually looked like a suppressor that had been skinned. So it had pretty much the exact same sort of baffles, and if you could maybe perhaps throw a piece of PVC over that baffle and secure it, you'd have yourself an improvised silencer and or an improvised suppressor. And the ATF has ruled against that. So I find that this caged muzzle brake on a 12-inch barrel is kind of interesting, and I don't know if it'll actually, it's not like the ATF makes a ruling and they don't come back and change it on you.
It's called a reinterpretation.
Right. And we've actually had something with that, something that has come up. Few months ago, there was a ban on the 7N6 imported ammunition from Russia, and 7N6 is a lot designation for 5.45 by 39 round for the Russian AK-74 series. Now, it would be comparable to the American 5.56. It's a step down, or not, I shouldn't say a step down because that's kind of a negative implication, but it's a move to a smaller intermediate cartridge with the thought process being that you can carry more ammunition in this way. And really, if you want to get down to it, the military doctrine is not that you kill the enemy. The military doctrine is that you remove the enemy from the area, and the best way to do that is to wound the enemy, because now you've made not only one get out of the way, you've made three others get out of the way to take him, and then his screams of pain put in all sorts of fear of the Lord Jesus into his buddies. And that's kind of what these bullets are designed for. They're not necessarily designed to kill, they are designed to incapacitate. And the ATF had sought a ban on this as being armor-piercing ammunition. And that's due to somebody making an AK-style pistol out of, turning an AK-74 into a pistol style, which still uses that ammunition. There was a lot of back and forth, and recently, as of today, the ruling came out that, yes, that is armor-piercing ammunition, and the ATF is going to ban it. So you can expect that to go through the roof again.
Yeah. Well, also just dropped a story in chat. We're talking about the Olympics and, the plight of the Olympic athlete in Brazil as it relates to staying safe in and around Rio and the favelas surrounding Rio. Ryan Lochte was apparently assaulted, had a gun held to his head, and was robbed. But, Brazil was a great place and a great choice for the Olympics. Whereas we have an American Olympian who has won 6 medals in her career as an Olympic sports shooter for, I believe her sport is skeet or trap, and her name is Kim Rode. And the problem is that in California is basically trying to put that sport out of business in the state.
Well, and it's fairly interesting. I'm not necessarily a sports fan so much, but I have kind of kept an eyeball on some of the shooting sports in the Olympics. And the United States is actually, we get the gold. That's what we're good at. That's what we do. We shoot.
Except for the air rifle. We didn't get the gold in the air rifle this year.
I believe we got the very first gold in the air rifle, and I think that was the 10-meter air rifle. We got the gold in that, and that was the first gold issued for the Olympics. But there is no coverage of the lady that won the 6 medals. That's it kind of flies in the face of the current wisdom, which states that any sort of minority, and that's air quotes around minority, because I don't believe that women are a minority, but that's what they say, getting maximum coverage. I'll tell you what, if that woman had been wearing a hijab and done that, it would be nonstop coverage of that.
Well, certainly, and the interesting thing is that NBC is running the coverage of the Olympics. They actually have in their segue commercials that go between segments, they have the image of a double-barrel shotgun, an over-under, breaking its action and ejecting the shells. And I thought for a second, I said, this has to be a mistake. NBC can't be physically showing the action breaking open and shells ejecting with, visible gas escaping from the chamber. I thought, you know what, this is odd. I would not have expected NBC to go and put that in as part of that segment, but sure enough, it's there.
I see hypocrisy. I see the damn targeted agenda there, and yeah, it's not good for us. It's really not good for us. After the Orlando shooting, there's a great big outcry for firearms for homosexuals, and that was actually celebrated for about 12 hours in the news. In the past 2 days, there have been more than 10 times the coverage of the homosexual community getting into firearms that happened 2 months ago. There's been 10 times that coverage for a small group, Gays Against Gun. Their acronym would be GAG. That's just a little too funny for me.
That's like the Navy setting up a new ship for the gay activist called Harvey Milk, and of course it's going to be an oiler.
Well, at least it's not a glass bottom boat, right?
Oh,
yeah. And the rusty trombone plays in the background. I don't know, man. You know what? We got to do it. 4 rules of gun safety.
That's it. We're coming on time, so get that in there.
All right. First rule of firearm safety is every firearm is loaded until you physically and visually ensure that it is not loaded. No negligent discharges. Rule number 2. Keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction at all times. Do not cover anything you do not wish to destroy. Rule number 3, know what your target is and know what's beyond your target at all times. And the most important rule, I cannot stress this enough, keep your booger hook off the bang switch until you are ready to discharge the weapon. Keep your finger out of the trigger guard. Ride it along the side of the frame, right alongside of the receiver. Keep it off until you are on target, ready to shoot.
There you go. So, Michael, I wanted to drop a purchase that I made. In the few minutes that we have left here, like I said, we're getting ready for hunting season, and I was able to pick up a 2-man hub style pop-up blind for $50. Brand new, brand new. It's a Maristep backwoods model. So this is a mossy oak pattern camouflage. Some poor gentleman in my community needed new rotors on his car more than he needed that blind that he bought at Christmas and had not been able to use yet. So picked that up on Craigslist, and I think my next purchase will be some Remington Hog Hammer ammo in 300 Blackout, or the Barnes varmint rounds in the same caliber. So I think I'm going to go with the Barnes ammo based on everything I've seen. The Remington Hog Hammer is just something that I would want to get to try and see if I could duplicate the same results that many other people have had.
Well, I'll tell you what, everything that I've seen regarding the Hog Hammer ammo on ballistic gelatin shows that to be a devastating performer. It creates cavitation unlike any other full metal jacketed bullet. So yeah, that should be good. Now, what are you looking at the price on that?
So the Remington Hog Hammers was usually coming in at like $23 a box. The Barnes ammo I think was $25. So I mean the price is comparable. I'm willing to spend $50 just to see if it's any better. If I'm able to, I really want to get that 223 Wild build that I have been really procrastinating on. I really want to get that finished and see how that does, because I can go ahead and start using the 223 varmint loads that I couldn't necessarily use on the and being comfortable with it out of my 5.56. I mean, I could use it, but we'll see.
Oh man, that's it. Everybody